Hey guys, I am super excited to come to you today with a breakdown of the White House without Jen Psaki. This one is going to be on our president and what he said, what he didn't say, what he can't say. Is he alive? Is he a vegetable? Is he a man? Is he a powerful leading man ready to take this nation to new world status? The greatest president in the history of the United States of America. So let's get started and break it down and see what happens. I do want to point out first, my preconceived notion of this is he's been studying ever since it was announced. He's been studying since then. I believe that every question he already has, every answer he has on a sheet of paper in front of him, and this is just basically the people there don't even need to be there unless they go off script. And if that happens, then Lord have mercy, Biden's going to look like the fool he is.
Please down. Thank you.
So let's get this party started.
Good afternoon. Before I take questions, I want to give you a progress report to the nation on where we stand 65 days into office here, on vaccinations and a few other top priorities for the American people. First, on vaccinations. On December 8th, I indicated that I hope to get 100 million shots in people's arms in my first 100 days.
There's no prompter.
We met that
but he's
goal
definitely
last
reading
week
off that
by
podium.
Day 58. Recent Department of Education survey shows that nearly half of the K through 8 schools are open now full-time, 5 days a week for in-person learning.
Why wouldn't it be 100? If half of them can do it, why can't everybody
really
do
close,
it? That doesn't make sense.
35 days left to go, we'll meet that goal as well.
You're high.
As of yesterday, more than 100 million payments of $1,400 have gone into people's bank accounts. That's real money in people's pockets, bringing relief.
That was promised last July.
And millions more.
And Nancy prevented anyone from getting.
Very soon.
Did we forget about that?
One final
Memory
note.
hold that? Nancy held it back because of the election.
Since we passed the American Rescue Plan, we learned that the number of people filing for weekly unemployment insurance fell by nearly 100,000 persons.
Bullshit.
It's the first time in a year the number has fallen below the pre-pandemic high.
Bullshit.
So
we don't believe you.
There are still too many Americans out of work, too many families hurting, and they still have a lot of
Everybody
work
just
to
got
do.
a check. How's that an incentive to go back to work?
American people, help is
Look at his
here,
face. That's what it looks
hope
like
is
when he's
on the
lying.
way.
He's a liar.
And I'll be happy
just like
to
Jen.
take your questions. Zeke, the Associated Press.
That's what I got on my card in front of me here. You don't need to ask. I already have your question.
Well, I'm good. Look, when
Oh my God. He's
I took office,
fumbling through papers. Look, hold on. I
decided
have
that,
totally
it
lost
was a fairly
my place
basic,
here.
Simple proposition,
Look,
and that is, I got elected to solve problems.
corn pop.
And the most urgent
Look.
problem facing
Oh
the
my
American
God.
people, I stated from the
I
outset,
lost my place. Can somebody come up here and find where we are?
COVID-19 and the economic dislocation for millions and millions of Americans.
Economic
And so that's why I
dislocation.
put
He's just
all
making
my
shit up.
focus with those particular problems. And the other problems we're talking about,
Problems.
immigration,
Problems.
guns, and the other things you mentioned, are long-term problems. They've been around a long time.
Problems. He's replacing the
And
B with an
what
L.
we'll be able to do, God willing, is now begin one at a time to focus on those as well. And whether it's immigration,
Oh, he's in a
or
tailspin.
guns, or a number of other problems that face the country. But the fundamental problem is getting people some peace of mind so they can go to bed at night and not stare at the ceiling wondering whether they lost their health insurance, whether they're going to lose a family member, whether they're going to be in a position where they're going to lose their home because they can't pay their mortgage, or the millions of people are going to get thrown out of their homes because of the inability to pay their rent. So We're going to move on these.
That was
one
the
at a
sheet of
time,
paper that had the
try to do as
reporter's
many
names and picture on it.
simultaneously as we can.
Rewind
But
it. Go back.
that's the
Look.
reason why
That was a
I
piece of paper
focused
with
as
their
I
pictures
have.
on it.
And here's the deal. I think my Republican colleagues
like
are going to
9
have
there.
to determine
Really 8
whether or
because
not
Peter's not allowed to ask any
we
questions.
want to work together, or they'll decide that the way in which they want to proceed is to
Executive order.
Executive
order. Executive order.
Divide the country.
Executive order.
Continue the politics of division. But I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to move forward.
And keep signing EOs.
Many of you thought there was no possibility of my getting the plan I got passed.
Bullshit. Everybody
without
thought
Republican votes. Pretty big deal.
No.
Got passed.
No, Joe.
Growing the economy.
No, Joe.
People's lives are changing.
No, Joe.
So let's see what happens.
Liar.
All I know, I've been hired to solve problems. To solve
You're
problems,
creating
not
a
create
lot
division.
more than your division. You're the king of division. King D.
Okay. How about Yamish?
Thanks so much, Mr. President. You've said over and over again that
Kiss his ass.
immigrants shouldn't come to this country right now. This isn't the time to come. That message is not being received. Instead, the perception
from
of
the
you
NPR.
that got you elected as a moral, decent man is the reason why a lot of
Kiss his
immigrants are
ass.
coming to this country and entrusting
Moral
you
and
with
decent
unaccompanied
man,
minors.
Mr. President.
How do you resolve that tension? And how are you choosing which families can stay and which can't?
Every
go,
question
given the
she
fact that
asks,
even though
Jen
with Title
has
42,
race
there are some families
tattooed
that are
in it
staying.
somewhere.
Is there a
Every single one.
timeline for when we won't be seeing these overcrowded facilities run by CPB when it comes to unaccompanied minors?
Well, look, I guess I should be flattered. People are coming because I'm the nice guy. That's the reason why it's happening. That I'm a decent man, or however it's phrased. That,
Wrong.
that's why they're coming.
Because you
Biden's a
invited
good
them.
Guy.
No, you invited
Truth of
them.
the matter is,
dumbass.
nothing has changed. As many people came, 28% increase in children to the border.
Liar.
In my administration, 31% in the last year of
He's just throwing numbers out.
2019 before the pandemic.
You're a liar.
In the Trump administration. It happens every single solitary year.
Not in the winter.
There is a significant increase.
Not in the
number of
winter.
People coming to the border.
Not in the winter.
In the winter months.
No,
of
you're lying.
January, February, March.
You're a liar.
It happens
May.
every year.
May is the
In addition
peak
to that,
time.
there is a
Que jolienda.
nobody. And
Ay,
by the way,
señor.
does anybody suggest that there was a 31% increase under Trump because he was a nice guy and he was doing good things at the border? That's not the reason they're coming. The reason they're coming is that
This man's
it's the
been
time they can
brainwashed.
travel with the least likelihood of dying on the way because of the heat in the desert. Number one. Number two, they're coming because of the circumstances in country. In country. The way to deal with this problem,
And
I
that
started
peaks
to
in the
deal with it
winter.
back when I was United States
In
Senator,
country.
Vice President, putting together
Didn't even know what
a
he was.
bipartisan plan of over $700 million to do with the root causes of why people are leaving.
Then what happened?
What did Trump do?
If you fixed
He
it,
eliminated
what
that
happened?
funding. He didn't use it. He didn't do it.
No,
In
he kept
addition to
people
that,
out.
What he did,
And you're
he
not.
dismantled all the elements
You're failing.
that exist to deal with what had been a problem. And
Well,
and
if you had it
continued to be a
perfectly made
problem
up,
for a long
then why don't you
time.
just reinstate everything
He,
you
in fact,
did?
shut down
Not Obama, but you did by yourself,
the number of
single-handedly,
beds
Superman,
available.
and
He
everything would
did
be
not
fine.
fund HHS to get people, to get the children out of those border patrol facilities where they should not be and not supposed to be more than
They shouldn't
a
be
few
in the
days,
United
a little
States.
while.
You're getting cart before the horse,
But
old
he
man.
dismantled all of that. And so what we're doing now is attempting to rebuild the system that can accommodate what is
How long
happening
is that gonna
today.
take?
And I'd like to think it's because I'm a nice guy, but it's not. It's because of what's happened.
You are a senile old man. Somebody has brainwashed
you
you,
take
pumped
a
you full of
look
Adderall, and put you on
at
that podium.
The number of people who are coming. The vast majority, the overwhelming majority of people coming to the border and crossing are being sent back.
Liar! You're a
being sent
freaking
back.
liar. 42%
Thousands.
are sent back. That's
Tens of
less than the majority.
thousands
That is the minority.
People
You're
who
lying
are-
to the American
who
people.
are
Look at
over
me.
18
Look at me, Joe.
years of age
You're
and
lying.
single people, one at a time coming, have been sent back.
You don't know
Sent
what you're
home.
talking about.
We're sending back
That's
the
just
vast
what you were
majority
told,
of
I
the
guess.
families that
That's
are
not
coming.
what the statistics
We're trying to work
say.
out now with Mexico their
Liar.
willingness to take more of those families back. But that's what's happening. They're not getting across the border.
Yes, they
and
are.
Those who are coming across
You're
the border
lying.
who are unaccompanied children, we're moving rapidly to try to put in place what was dismantled, as I said. For example, of all the children who are coming across the border, over 70% are either 16 or 17 years old. We're not talking about people ripping babies from mothers' arms or little 3-year-olds
Jen
standing on
was.
the border. Less than, I think it's 1.5%.
Jen was
fall
talking
in the
about that. Jen
category
was
of
making it
the
sound like
very
they're
young.
all like that.
So what
Flip-flop.
we're doing is we're providing for the
You're
space
flip-flopping.
again to be
'Cause
able
that's
to
not
get
at all
these
what
kids
Jen was
out
saying.
of the Border Patrol facilities, which no child, no one should be in any longer than 72 hours. And today, I went to, for example, I used all the resources available to me, went to the Defense Department, and the Secretary of Defense has just made available Fort Bliss, 5,000 beds.
Why? Why do you need that?
Immediately available.
Because of the
5,000
surge at the
beds
border
on
that
Texas
you
border.
called for during
So
your
we're
campaign.
building
You
back
called
up
for
the
a surge,
capacity
and now
that
you've got
should
the
have
surge,
been
and you're having to
maintained and
use a
built upon.
fort.
That Trump dismantled.
Call him out on
It's going to
this.
take time. And the other thing
You
we're
caused
doing,
it.
I might add,
Everybody's saying it
Am I
except for
giving
you
too
and your
long an answer?
administration.
Because
Yes,
you
you
don't want
are.
the detail.
No, because you're lying.
No, but I mean, I don't know how much detail you want about immigration. Maybe I'll stop there and finish.
My follow-up
Infinity.
question is, one, if you could talk a little bit about which families, why they're being allowed to stay, what the families that are being allowed to stay, why they're being allowed to stay. And in addition to that, when it comes to the filibuster, which is what Zeke was asking about, there's immigration is a big issue, of course, when it related to the filibuster, but there's also Republicans who are passing bill after bill trying to restrict voting rights. Chuck
How?
Schumer is calling it an existential threat to democracy.
By requiring
Why
an
not
ID?
back a filibuster rule that at least gets around issues including voting rights or immigration? Jim Clyburn, someone of course who you know very well, has backed the idea of a filibuster rule when it comes to civil rights and voting rights.
Well, look, I'm going to deal with all of those problems. The question is the priorities as they come and land on my plate. Let's go to the first question you asked, the first of the second questions you asked, and that is, what about dealing with families? Why are not some not going back? Because Mexico is refusing to take them back.
Most of them are not going back.
They're saying they won't take them back, not all of them. We're in
'Cause they
negotiations
can't.
with the president of Mexico.
Yeah, you're gonna
I think
start
we're
paying
see
them
that
just
change.
like Trump
They
did.
should all
Yeah.
be going
Cha-ching.
back. All be going back.
All?
The only people we're not going to let sitting there on the other side of the Rio Grande.
Why
by
should they
themselves
all go
with
back
no
if they're
help
all
are children.
escaping
What we're doing there, it's an
starvation
important point to
and
understand. I know you
rape
understand, but I don't mean
and
to say it that way.
political tyranny? Why should they all go
Important point to
back?
The vast majority of people under the
It's
age of 18 who come to the
inhumane
United States
if they all go back.
come with a telephone number on a wristband, or come with a telephone number in their pocket in the United States.
And they're not
Mother,
allowed
father,
to use those
close
right now.
relative, a grandmama or grandpa. What was happening before is it's taking literally weeks and weeks and maybe even months before anybody pick up the phone and call to see if there really was someone there.
That's on you.
Well, we've set up a system now where within 24 hours there's a phone call made as that child crosses the border. And then a verification system being put in place as of today to determine quickly whether or not that is a trafficker being called or that is actually a mom, a dad, and or a close relative.
How are you doing that? That's a
They're
good idea.
establishing that right off the bat.
How?
If it in fact is
Maybe that's
mom
the
or
secret we
dad,
don't need to know. But I
Dad
like that.
says to
Sounds
take the
good.
extreme case, I got a birth certificate. Then guess what? We're getting that kid directly to that parent immediately. And so that's going to reduce significantly. There's two ways to reduce child populations in circumstances that are not acceptable, like being held at a Border Patrol station. One is to get them to the place where they have a relative and set a date as to when a hearing can be held. The second way to do it is put them in a Health and Human Services facility that we're occupying
Cage.
now, both licensed beds around the country that exist, as well as, for example, federal resources like Fort Bliss, to get them
Which is
safely
now
in a
necessary
place
because of the
where
surge
they can
at the
be
border
taken
that you
care of
caused.
while their fate is
You'll never
determined.
admit it, though.
Filibuster. Fulfill filibuster.
Well, I don't know what I'm doing.
You know, with regard to the filibuster, I believe we should go back to a position of the filibuster that existed just when I came to the United States Senate 120 years ago. And that is that it used to be required for the filibuster, and I had a card on
Just
it,
so you
was
know,
gonna give
I
you the
use
statistic.
120
You probably
also.
know
That's
that.
my go-to number when
that
I,
it used to
and I'm
be
not
that,
joking. I totally, when I make fun of a long time ago,
between
my go-to number is
1917 and
120 years
1971,
ago.
The filibuster existed.
So he was
There
kidding.
were
He
a
was
total of
joking. For all you
58
fools out there trying to make a
motions
bigger deal out of
break
that
the
than it
filibuster.
is, it was a joke. Get over
The
it.
whole time. Last year alone, there were 5 times that many. So it's being abused in a gigantic way. And for example, it used to be you had to stand there and talk and talk and talk and talk until you collapsed. And
Well,
guess
who
what?
used them?
People got tired of talking and tired of collapsing.
Last year,
Filibusters
the
broke down,
Democrats
we were able
used
to break the filibuster, get a quorum, and vote.
250 filibusters.
So
last
I
year, the
strongly
Democrats
support
used
moving in that
250
direction. In addition
different
to
filibusters.
having an open mind about
They
dealing with
shouldn't
certain
want to get rid
things
of it
that
because
are-
they certainly
are
use
just
it when they're in the
elemental
minority.
to the functioning of our democracy, like the right to vote, like the basic right to vote. We've amended the filibuster in the past. But here's the deal. As you've observed, I'm a fairly practical guy. I want to get things done. I want to get them done consistent with what we promised the American people.
Oh, he's working himself up right
In
now.
order
Look
to
at
do
him. He's
that,
going to start
in
yelling.
the 50-50 Senate, we've got to get to the place where I get 50 votes so that the Vice President of the United States can break the tie, or I get 51 votes without her.
So you're not looking at bipartisan.
so,
All you want
I'm gonna
is
say
the
something
tiebreaker from
outrageous.
camel toe.
I have never been particularly poor at calculating how to get things done in the United States Senate. So the best way to get something done, if it holds near and dear to you that you like to be able to, anyway, we're going to get a lot done. And if we have to,
Oh
if
my
there's complete
God.
lockdown and chaos as a consequence of the filibuster, then we'll have to go
That's our
beyond what I'm
president.
talking about.
Completely lost his train of thought.
Okay, hang on.
Oh my God.
Sorry.
You should be sorry.
Ms. Kim.
The Democratic National Committee should be sorry for putting him in that
Mr.
position. Oh my
President,
God, that was
To
horrible.
follow up on the filibuster, so do you believe it should take 60 votes to end a filibuster on legislation or 51?
If we could end it with 51, we would have no problem. You're going to have to, the existing rule, it's going to be hard to get a parliamentary ruling that allows 50 votes to end the filibuster.
Completely lost his train
the
of thought.
existence of a filibuster. But it's not my expertise in what the parliamentary rules and how to get there are, but our preoccupation with the filibuster is totally legitimate. But in the meantime, we got a lot we can do while we're talking about what we're going to do about the filibuster.
Oh my God.
Let me get here. Okay,
Oh my God. What was that?
Cecilia Vega.
That's a train wreck.
I'd like to circle back to immigration, please. You just listed the reasons that people are coming, talking about in-country problems, saying that it happens every year. You blamed the last administration. Sir, I just got back last night from a reporting trip to the border where I met 9-year-old Josel, who walked here from Honduras by himself, along with another little boy. He had that phone number
Astounding.
on him, and we were able to call his family. His mother says that she sent her son to this country because she believes that you are not deporting unaccompanied minors like her son. That's why she sent him alone from Honduras. So, sir,
That would
one of
make
the
it
last
your
administrations, but
fault,
is your
Biden.
messaging in saying
Your
that
fault.
These children are and will be allowed to stay in this country and work their way through this process.
Accept responsibility.
Encouraging families
Nice guy.
like Josel's to come.
Well, look,
That's what they said.
the idea that I'm going to say, which I would never do, if an unaccompanied child ends up at the border, we're just going to let him starve to death and stay on the other side. No previous administration did that either, except Trump. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. That's why I've asked the Vice President of the United States yesterday to be the lead person on dealing with focusing on the fundamental reasons why people leave Honduras, Guatemala, El Salvador in the first place. It's because of earthquakes, floods. It's because of lack of food. It's because of gang violence. It's because of
You're so
a
out of
whole range
touch,
of
old
things.
man. You're so out of
When I
touch.
was vice president, had the same obligation to deal with unaccompanied children. I was able to get it slowed up significantly by working with the heads of state of those communities to do things like
Well,
in
what
one of the major
happened?
cities, the reason people were leaving.
'Cause you're in
is they
charge
couldn't walk
now.
to the street because they were getting
And it has
kids were
increased
getting beat up or
by
shot or
1,000%.
gang violence. Well, what I was able to do is not give money to the head of state because so many are corrupt, but I was able to say, okay, you need lighting in the streets to change things? I'll put the lighting in. We got a contractor. We got the type of lighting. We paid directly to the contractor, did not go through the government. And violent crime significantly was reduced in that city.
Good idea.
Fewer people sought to leave. When this hurricane occurred, the two hurricanes, instead of us going down and helping in a major way so that people would not have a reason to want to leave in the first place because they didn't have housing or water or sustenance, we did nothing. We're going to do a lot in our administration. We're going to be spending that $700+ million a year to change the life and circumstances of why people leave in the first place. That mother did not sit around on the kitchen table and say, you know, I got a great idea. Why I'm going to make sure my son gets taken care of is I'm going to put him, how old was he or she?
He's 9. I also met a 10-year-old.
A 9-year-old. I'm going to send him on a 1,000-mile journey across the desert and up to the United States because I know Joe Biden's a nice guy and he'll take care of him. What a desperate act to have to take. The circumstances must be horrible. So we can do something about that. That's what the vice president's going to be doing. What I did when President Obama asked me to come and deal. I was in Turkey at the time. He said, you got to come home and take care of this. So we put together a plan, and it had an impact. And so the question here is how.
Why is it
we go
taking
ahead
3
and do
months
this.
to reestablish that
What we
plan?
do.
If it was
There's no
so
easy
fabulous, just reinstate it.
Quick follow, if I may. Do you want to see these unaccompanied minors staying in this country, or should they be deported eventually?
Well, the judgment has to be made whether or not, in this young man's case, he has a mom at home. There's an overwhelming reason why he'd be put in a plane and flown back to his mom.
Follow, sir. You mentioned circumstances that must be horrific. The Customs and Border Protection Facility in Donna, Texas, I was there, is at 1,556% capacity right now with mostly unaccompanied minors. There are kids that are sleeping on floors.
Show
they are
pictures of
packed
that.
into these pods. I've spoken to lawyers who say that some of these children have not seen the sun in days. What's your reaction? What is your reaction to these images that have come out from that particular facility? Is what's happening inside acceptable to you? And when is this going to be fixed?
That's a serious question, right? Is it acceptable to me? Come on. That's why we're going to be moving 1,000 of those kids out
he's gonna get
quickly.
mad now.
That's why
Come on,
I
man.
got Fort Bliss opened up. That's why I've been working from the moment this started to happen to try to find additional access for children to be able to safely, not just children, but particularly children, to be able to safely be housed while we follow through on the rest of what's happening. That is totally unacceptable. Ken.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wanted to ask you about Afghanistan. You face a May 1st deadline for the withdrawal of U.S. troops from that country. As a candidate in foreign affairs, you wrote that it is past time to end these forever wars. Can you commit to the American people that by May 2nd, the U.S. will no longer have forces in Afghanistan?
Nope.
The answer is that it's going to be hard to meet the May 1 deadline. Just in terms of tactical reasons, it's hard to get those troops out. So what we've been doing.
There's a lot of bad people there
and
too.
what
We don't necessarily need to pull everybody out, and the American people don't need to know all that.
With our allies, those other nations that have NATO allies who have troops in Afghanistan as well.
There's terrorism going all over
And
Afghanistan,
if we leave, we're gonna
Pakistan,
do so in a safe and
Uzbekistan,
orderly way.
Syria, Libya,
We're in consultation, I said, with our allies
Central
and partners,
America.
and how to proceed.
Sorry, do you believe, though, it's possible we could have troops there next year?
Yeah, should be.
I can't picture that being the case.
Well, picture this, dumbass. They've been there for 30 years. 50 of those years, you were in charge. You were part of it.
Thank you very much.
Of course they're gonna be
Mr.
there next
President.
year.
Given the conditions that were just laid out at the migrant facilities at the U.S. border, will you commit to allowing journalists to have access to the facilities that
6
are
years from now,
overcrowded
sure.
moving forward?
Let's do it. Let's have them
I
come
will
in 6
commit
years from
when
now.
my plan very shortly is underway to let you have access to not just them, but to other facilities as well.
How soon will journalists be able to have access to the facilities? We've obviously been allowed to be inside one, but we haven't seen the facilities in
flagship
which children are packed together to really give the
Not
American
gonna see
people a
that.
chance to see that. Will you commit to transparency on this issue?
I will
Mr.
commit to transparency, and as soon as I am in a position to be able to implement what we're doing right now.
How can you implement something you're already doing?
All my chief folks have gone down is I don't want to become the issue. I don't want to be, bringing all the Secret Service and everybody with
Why?
me to get in the way. So this is being set up, and you'll have full access to
What a
everything
crock.
once we get this thing moving.
What a lying
Just to be
crock of
clear, how
crap
soon
you
will
just
that be,
said.
Mr. President?
I don't know, to be clear.
Do you bear responsibility for everything that's happening at the border now? I hear you talking a lot about the past administration. You decided to roll back some of those policies. Did you move too quickly
To roll back what, I'm sorry?
Policies. Did you move too quickly to roll back some of the executive orders of your predecessor?
First of all the policies are underway. We're not helping at all.
All
Did
of
not
them.
slow up the amount of immigration.
That's not true.
There's many people
Lying to
coming.
the American people right
And
now. Lying to the American people.
Rolling back the policies.
Is
of
every
separating
presser
children
going to be
from
him
their-
standing up there
from their
lying? I'm
mothers?
afraid so.
Make no apology.
Until somebody calls them out,
Rolling
until
back
the
the
press
policies
holds
of,
them
remain
responsible
in
for their
Mexico,
lives,
sitting
they're going
on
to keep doing
the
it.
edge of the Rio Grande and
And as long as
circumstance with not enough to
Big
eat,
tech
I
owns the
make
press
no
and there's a
apology.
narrative, that's going to
Make no
continue to
apology.
happen.
And the programs that did not exist before Trump became president that have an incredibly negative impact
How many
on
people were
the
staying
law,
in Fort Hood
international
during
law,
the
as
presidency
well
of
as on
Donald Trump?
human dignity. And so I make
Spoiler
no
alert,
apologies.
zero. This is
Ask you
caused
about
by
foreign
your
policy,
policy.
Mr. President. Overnight, we learned that North Korea tested 2 ballistic missiles. What, if any, actions will you take, and what is your red line on North Korea?
He doesn't have one.
Let me say that.
Yeah, read that
number
one, Joe. Read that one off.
UN Resolution 1718 was violated by those particular missiles that were tested. Number one. We're consulting with our allies and partners, and there will be responses if they choose to escalate. We will respond accordingly. But I'm also prepared for some form of diplomacy.
He's not
but it
answering
has
this
to be
question at all, is he?
Conditioned upon the end result of denuclearization. So
Is that right after you cure cancer?
that's what we're doing right now, consulting with our allies.
Just very quick
You only got
follow-up.
another hour now, okay?
Diplomacy, can you define what you mean? And former President Obama warned the incoming President Trump that North Korea was the top foreign policy issue that he was watching. Is that how you assess the crisis in North Korea?
Yes. Okay, hang on a second here. Kristen, Nancy, CBS?
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I want to go back to voting rights. And as Yamish mentioned, Republican legislatures across the country are working to pass bills that would restrict voting, particularly Democrats fear impacting minority voters and young voters, the very people who helped to get you elected.
Because minorities and young people don't have IDs.
To pass voting rights legislation, that your party is going to lose seats and possibly lose control of the House and the Senate.
They are, but not because of that, because of what they're doing now.
American, this whole initiative is.
No, it's
sick.
not. You're sick.
It's sick.
You're an idiot.
Deciding in some states that you cannot bring water to people standing in line, waiting to vote.
That's not what they're saying.
Deciding that
they're
we're gonna
undoing
end
what
voting
Stacey
at 5
Abrams
o'clock
did
when working
illegally.
people are just
They're
getting off
leaving it
work.
up to the people.
Deciding that there will be
Not the
no
federal
absentee
government.
ballots
Read your
under
Constitution.
the most rigid circumstances.
They aren't rigid.
It's all designed, and
They're
I'm going to
just not
spend
wide
my
open
time
the way it
doing
was
three things.
when you got elected.
One, trying to figure out how to pass the legislation passed by the House.
That
Number
makes
one.
sense.
Number two, educating the American public. The Republican voters I know find this despicable.
What are you? What's
Republican
wrong with you?
voters,
What's wrong with you?
the folks out outside this White House. I'm not talking about the elected officials. I'm talking about voters. Voters.
Why did you just
And
get
so
angry?
I'm
Calm
convinced
down there, Joe.
that we'll be able to stop this because it is
You're
the
not
most
proving your
pernicious
point.
thing. This makes Jim Crow look like Jim Eagle. I mean, this is gigantic.
Oh, wow. Shut him
they're
down.
trying to do.
Handlers, shut him down.
And it cannot be sustained. And do everything in my power, along with my friends in the House and the Senate, to keep that from becoming the law.
Too late.
Is there anything else you can do about it besides passing legislation?
The answer is yes, but I'm not going to lay out a strategy in front of the whole world and you now.
Then, on a related note, have you decided whether you are going to run for re-election in 2024? You haven't set up a re-election campaign yet, as your predecessor had by this time.
My predecessor needed to. My predecessor.
No, you just stayed in the
Oh, God, I
basement
miss
the
it.
whole time.
No, the answer is yes. My plan is to run for re-election. That's my expectation.
Oh, my God. What a joke.
Partisanship. Your old friend, Mitch McConnell, says you have only spoken to each other once since you took office, and that you have moved far left since taking office. Do you see it the same way he does? Have you rejected bipartisanship?
No, I haven't at all.
Yes,
But
you have.
meaning,
You're lying.
when's the last time a president invited the opposite party down at least a half a dozen times to talk about issues?
What
everything
did she
from
just
how
say?
we work.
Mitch
We're working with a group
McConnell
of
has
20
not heard from you
members of
but
the
one
Senate right
time
now
the whole
in
time you've been the
House on
president.
how we
So now you're gonna
reestablish
lie
our
your-
ability to make computer chips.
You're lying.
And how we get
You're
ahead
lying.
of the game, how we can work together. We're working together on a bunch of things.
You're not working together. Everything
I
is
know Mitch
50-50,
well.
remember?
Mitch
You
knows
just
me
said
well.
that.
I would
Bullshit.
expect Mitch to say exactly what he said. But this is a matter of
Answer the
making
question.
sure that I would like Republican,
Answer the
elected
question.
Republican
One
support.
time since you've been president. Mitch
what I know
McConnell, the
I
head
have
of the
now is
Republican
I have
Party in the Senate.
electoral
One time.
support from
That's
Republican
not.
voters.
That's
Republican
not working
voters
together. That's not coexisting.
agree with what I'm doing. And so
you say it over
unless
and over, it's not gonna
Rich
make it
says
true.
The last thing I did, this last piece of legislation is so far left, well, then he ought to take a look at his party. Over 50% of them must be over that edge as well.
Look at
'cause they
yourself,
support what I
Joe.
did.
Answer the question about you.
okay.
Don't make it about somebody else. She didn't ask you about
right
Mitch.
here.
She asked you about
Let me
you.
see.
Don't answer it, though.
Caitlin?
Get him, Caitlin.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I have a question for you, but first, I'd like to follow up on a question from Yamiche, and that's on the filibuster.
That counts as a question, but go ahead.
Okay, I'll make it quick. It's a
No,
quick
no, you
question. Regarding the filibuster, at John Lewis's funeral, President Barack Obama said he believed the filibuster was a relic of the Jim Crow era. Do you agree?
Yes.
If not, why not abolish it if it's a relic of the Jim Crow era?
Successful electoral politics is the art of the possible. Let's figure out how we can get this done
Oh, my
and
God.
move in the direction of significantly changing the abuse of even the filibuster rule.
What is
First,
he talking about?
it's been abused from the time it came into being
By you
by an extreme way
or just the
in the
GOP?
last 20 years. Let's deal with the abuse first.
250 times last year.
You're
There's
moving
your
closer
abuse.
to eliminating the filibuster. Is that correct?
I answered your question.
You also just made some news by saying that you are going to run for re-election.
I said that is my expectation.
So is that a yes, that you are running for re-election?
Look, I don't know where you guys come from, man. I've never been able to travel. I'm a great respecter of fate. I've never been able to plan 3.5 years ahead for
What did he
certain.
just say?
If you do run, will Vice President Harris
He
be
just
on your
strung
ticket?
words
I
together
fully
and trying to make a
expect that to be
sentence.
the
It didn't
case.
make
She's
a
doing
bit
great
of
job.
sense.
She's a great partner.
It's just words.
She's a great partner.
And do you believe you'll be running against former President Trump?
Oh, come on. I don't even think about it. I have no idea.
Thank you.
I have no idea whether there'll be a Republican Party. Do
Thank
you?
you. Thank you.
I know you don't have to answer my question, but I mean, do you? I mean, look, this is the way I view things. I become a great respecter of fate in my life. I set a goal
But not
that's
a
in front of me
respect
to
of-
get things
respecter
done
of people,
for the people I care
obviously.
most about, which are hardworking, decent American people who getting really having it stuck to them. I want to change the paradigm. I want to change the paradigm.
You're a big fat liar.
We start to reward work, not just wealth.
This is
I
horrible.
want to change the paradigm. If you
absolutely
notice, didn't you find it kind of interesting that
Attack.
my Republican friends were worried about
Attack.
that the cost and the taxes that had to be had, if there is any tax.
His
to be had,
way
as they
of
talk
proving
about it,
his worth
in dealing
is by
with
putting down the other side.
the act
He's
that
not
we
saying
just
anything
passed,
about how good he is.
which
Everything
puts
is how
money in
bad they
people's
are.
Pockets, ordinary
That's
people.
horrible.
Do you hear them complain when they passed close to $2 trillion
Yeah.
Trump tax cut?
We heard him. The problem is you
83%
didn't.
going to the top 1%.
About
You didn't
50%
talk
of
about
the
that at
Senate
all.
didn't agree with you.
I love the fact that they found this whole idea of concern about the federal budget. It's kind of amazing. When the federal budget is saving people's lives,
Why are you yelling?
they don't think it's such a good idea.
You're just
When the
making
federal
shit
budget
up.
is feathering the
Absolutely
nest of the
making
wealthiest
stuff up.
Americans, 90 of the Fortune 500 companies making billions of dollars not paying a cent in taxes. Reducing
Smiling like the Joker.
taxes to the point that people who are making, if you're a husband and wife, a school teacher,
Oh, he's
and a
going
cop,
off.
you're paying at a higher rate than the average person making $1 billion a year.
Come back,
is.
Joe.
Something's wrong.
Come back, Joe. He's
Your
gone.
newfound concern. I'm concerned. Look, I meant
Look.
what I said when I ran, and a lot of you still think I'm wrong.
Look.
And I respect that.
No, you
So I'm
don't.
running for 3 reasons: to restore the soul, dignity, honor, honesty, transparency
There's no
to
transparency,
the
liar.
American political system.
Liar. There's no transparency.
2,
You're lying. You
to
failed.
rebuild the backbone of this country,
We had a strong
the middle
backbone.
class,
You don't.
hardworking people, and people struggling to get in the middle class. They built America,
Why are you yelling?
and unions built them.
Why are you yelling?
The third reason I said I was running was to unite the country. And generically speaking, all of you said, no, you can't do that. Well, I've not been able to unite the Congress, but I've been uniting the country
No, you're not.
based on the polling data.
No, you're not. No, you're not, Joe.
have to
You're
come
not
together.
uniting the country. You're dividing the country. You and your party is
So,
dividing
from
the
my
country with your
perspective,
racist rhetoric.
it's, to
You're
me,
not
it's
uniting
about
anybody
just, getting
except for your
out there,
Democratic
one
Party.
foot in front of
Even the
other,
ones that don't get
just trying
along
to
with
make
each
things
other,
better
they're
for
standing in line.
just hard working
That's your
people.
unity.
People get up every morning and just want to figure out how to put food on the table for
How
their
would you
kids, be
know?
able to have a little bit of breathing room,
How would you know?
being able to have make sure that they go to bed not staring to the ceiling like my dad did, wondering whether
Oh,
since
my
he didn't have
God.
health insurance, what happens if mom
Oh,
gets
my
sick or he
God.
got sick. These are basic things. Basic things. And I'm of the view that the vast majority of people, including registered Republicans by and large, share that same view, that same sense of what is, what's appropriate. Justin Sink, Bloomberg.
Thanks, Mr. President. I wanted to ask about your relationship with China now that you've been on office for a couple months. There's obviously the meeting in Alaska that was a little theatrical, and there's the continued human rights abuses. So today, I'm wondering, are you more likely than you were when you came into office to maintain tariffs on China? Are you considering banning imports of forced labor products? And would you consider cutting off U.S. investment or Chinese access to international payment systems?
Well, look, they're each specifically
Read it.
legitimate questions,
Read it, Joe.
but they only touch a smidgen of what the relationship with China really is about. I've known Xi Jinping for a long time. Allegedly, by the time I left office as vice president, I had spent more time with Xi Jinping than any world leader had, because President Obama and the Chinese President Hu decided we should get to know one another, since it was inappropriate for the President of the United States to spend time with the Vice President of another country. But it was obvious he was going to become the new leader of China. So I spent hours upon hours with him, alone with an interpreter.
And Hunter. Hunter was there too.
And so what I'm going to do is make sure we invest closer to 2%.
This is not a press
conference. One of the
conference.
reasons why I
This is a theater.
set up the PAB, the President's Board with scientists and the like, again.
Ask pre-written
is,
questions.
We're going to invest in medical
and answer
research.
with pre-written answers.
Cancer, Alzheimer's,
Read it off of. You don't even need to be
diabetes,
there.
the things,
Y'all could have
industries
just
of the
published
future,
the questions and the answers.
artificial intelligence.
This is not a press
quantum
conference.
computing, because we have to have democracies working together. Before too long, I'm going to invite an alliance of democracies to come here to discuss the future. And so we're going to make it clear that in order to deal with these things, we are going to hold China accountable to follow the rules. To follow the rules.
Follow the rules.
Whether it
Follow
relates
the
to
rules.
the South China Sea, or North China Sea, or the agreement made on Taiwan. As long as you and your country continues to so blatantly violate human rights, we are going to continue in an unrelenting way to call to the attention of the world.
Does anybody
Make
out
it
there
clear.
believe this? Does
Make it
anybody
clear
out
what's
there
happening.
believe he said that?
And he understood that. I made it clear that no American president, at least one did, but no American president ever backed down from speaking out of what's happening in the Uyghurs, what's happening in Hong Kong, what's happening in country. That's who we are. The moment a president
You didn't
walks
talk
away
about the
from that,
Uyghurs.
as the last one
You
did,
said it was a cultural difference and
There's a
that
moment
they
when
they have a
losing
different way of
legitimacy
looking at
around the
things,
world.
and what they did is completely
That's who we
legitimate.
are. So
That's what you said.
I see stiff competition with China. China has an overall goal, and I don't criticize them for the goal, but they have an overall goal to become the leading country in the world, the wealthiest country in the world, and the most powerful country in the world. That's not going to happen on my watch. The United States grow and expand.
You will not be held accountable for those remarks.
Expect in a multilateral way to make these decisions about sanctions or
No, that's not where I make the decision. That's where I make sure we're all on the same page. All on the same page. Look, I predict to you,
all the same page.
your children or
all the
grandchildren
same page.
are going to be doing
All the
their
same
doctoral
page.
thesis on issue of
The failure of Biden's
autocracy or
administration.
democracy. Because that is what is at stake. Not just with China. Look around the world. We're in the midst of a fourth industrial revolution of enormous consequence. Will there be middle class? How will people adjust to these significant changes in science and technology, the environment? How will they do that? And our democracy is equipped, because all the people get to speak, to compete.
No, they don't.
It is clear.
That's another blatant
absolutely
lie to
clear.
the American people.
And most of the scholars I dealt with at Penn agree with me around the country that this is a battle
What?
between the utility of democracies in the 21st century and autocracies. If you notice, you don't have Russia talking about communism anymore. It's about an autocracy. Demand decisions made by a leader of a country.
Big tech.
That's what's at stake here. We got to prove democracy
That's what you're
works.
doing.
Mr. President, sorry, I know you haven't had a chance to address the tragedies in Georgia and Colorado. You had said to stay tuned for actions that you might take on gun control. Wondering if you've made a decision either about sending the manufacturer liability bill that you had promised on day one to Capitol Hill, or executive actions like going after ghost guns,
It's all executive
or
actions.
giving money to cities and states.
He doesn't depend on Congress for
All
anything.
the above have been successful in large part because they know how to time what they're doing. Order it. Decide in priorities what needs to be done.
He's lost.
The next major initiative is, and I'll be announcing it Friday in Pittsburgh in detail,
Don't get ahead of it.
to rebuild the infrastructure, both physical and technological infrastructure of this country, so that we can compete and create significant numbers of really good paying jobs.
Union. You forgot union.
Really good paying jobs.
He forgot union
And some
jobs.
of you have been
Oh my
around
God.
long enough to know
That you're bought
that
by the
used to be a
unions.
great Republican goal and initiative. I still think the majority of the American people don't like the fact that we are now ranked, 85th in the world in infrastructure. I mean, look, the future rests on whether or not we have the best airports that can accommodate air travel, ports that you can get in and out of quickly, so businesses decide. Some of you, if you're ever local reporters, and you found your governor or mayor trying to attract business to your community, what's the first thing the business asked? What's the closest access to an interstate highway? How far am I from freight rail? Is the water available? Is enough water available for me to conduct my business? All the things that relate to infrastructure. We have somewhere, I asked the staff to write it down for me, and they did, not for this, but for a longer discussion. We have somewhere in terms of infrastructure, we rank 13th globally in infrastructure. China is investing 3 times more in infrastructure than the United States is. Bridges, more than 1/3 of our bridges, 231,000 of them, need repairs. Some are physical safety risks or preservation work. 1 in 5 miles of our highways and major roads are in poor condition. That's 186,000 miles of highway. Aviation, 20% of all flights weren't on time, resulting in 1.5 million hours lost in production. 6 to 10 million homes in America still have lead pipes servicing their water lines. We have over 100,000 wellheads that are not capped, leaking methane. What are we doing? And by the way, we can put as many pipe fitters and miners and us to work capping those wells at the same price that they would charge to dig those wells.
What?
So
It's cheaper
I
to cap a
just
well
find
than it is to
it,
dig a well? Is that what you're saying?
frustrating.
Yeah, it's frustrating when you say things that don't make sense at all.
Last point I'll make in the infrastructure, and I apologize for spending more time on it, but is that if you think about it, it's the place where we will be able to significantly increase American productivity. At the same
Doom
time,
and gloom.
providing
What a
really
Debbie
good
Downer.
jobs for people. But we can't build back to what they used to be. We have to build, the environment's already,
Back better.
global warming's already done significant damage. The roads that used to be above the water level didn't have to worry about where the drainage ditch was. Now you got to rebuild them 3 feet higher because it's not going to go back to what it was before. Only get worse unless we stop it. There's so much we can do. Look
What
at
a
all the
wild
schools
ass tangent this man's
in
on right
America.
now.
Most of you live in the Washington area now, but in your hometowns, I don't know where you're all from. How many schools where the kids can't drink the water out of the fountain? How many schools are still in
None.
a position where there's asbestos?
Except for the ones that are closed.
How many schools in America we're sending our kids to don't have adequate ventilation? How many homes, buildings,
Oh, dude,
office
shut up.
complexes are wasting billions of barrels of oil over time because they can't hold in the heat or the air conditioning because it's leaks through the windows that are so porous.
He is so lost right
connection.
now. Somebody grab him and bring him back to this
It's
press
amazing.
conference.
So there's
You're just
so
all
much we
doom
can
and
do
gloom.
that's good stuff, makes people healthier, and creates good jobs. And I think that
Please,
I got one more
move
question
on.
here. And
Oh, my
Janet,
God.
from Univision.
Thank you, Mr. President. We too have been reporting at the border, and just like Cecilia, we ran into a pair of siblings who came in on Monday, were detained by CBP, had the phone number for their mother who lives in the U.S. We have contacted the mother. That's the only way they know
How'd that
her
happen?
kids are here, because CBP today, Thursday, has not contacted that mother. So when can we expect your promise of things getting better with contacting and expediting?
Well, they're
this
already
process?
getting better, but they're going to get real. They're going to a whole hell of a lot better real quick, or we're going to hear some people leaving. Okay? We can get this done. We're going to get
He
it.
just threatened to
Long
fire
meeting
people.
with the
You're going to
entire
fire Camel Toe
team
because you
and
put her
several
in charge.
cabinet-level officers the other night. We're going to be moving within the next week over 100,000. I mean, 1,000 people out of the Border Patrol into safe, secure beds and facilities. We're going to.
How did this child unaccompanied when his mom is in the United States? How did that happen?
Getting some of the employees at HHS.
Bet it wasn't
there's
really
a
his
lot of
mom
them doing other things
or
and
her
moving them
mom.
into making those calls. We're in the process of rearranging and providing for the personnel needed to get that done. But I admire the fact that you were down there, you're making the calls yourself. It's real. The next thing that has to happen, though, as you well know, has to happen, there have to be some certitude that this is actually mom, dad, or whomever.
Thank
And
you.
there's ways to do that.
Good job, Joe.
There's ways to do that, a little bit like determining whether or not you got the right
DNA?
code for your credit card. What was your dog's name, kind of thing. I'm being a bit facetious, but not really. And also seeking harder data from DNA to birth certificates, which takes longer. So I want to do this as quickly, as humanly possible, and as safely as possible.
Well, no, treating the root causes in Latin America doesn't change things overnight. How do you realistically and physically keep these families from coming to the U.S. when things will not get better in their countries right away?
Well, I can't guarantee that, but I know, that old thing, the journey of 1,000 miles starts with the first step. You know as well as I do. You cover it. You have it's not like somebody's sitting on a hand-hewn table in Guatemala.
It's not like, and I was at the pool, and my legs would get wet,
Mexico,
and Corn Pop
or in
had a chain
Guadalupe saying, "I got
with a
great
straight
idea.
razor.
Let's sell
Guadalupe.
everything we have.
What did he just
Give
say
it to a
that?
coyote. Have them take our kids across the border into a desert where they don't speak the language. Won't that be fun? Let's go." That's not how it happens. People don't want to leave.
How does it happen?
When my great-grandfather got in a coffin ship in the Irish Sea, expectation was he going to live long enough on that ship to get to the United States of America. But they left because of what the Brits had been doing. They were in real trouble. They didn't want to leave, but they had no choice. So I can't guarantee we're going to solve everything, but I can guarantee we can make everything better. We can make it better. We can change the lives of
Can you
so
make
many
it
people.
better?
And the other thing I
You
want
can
to
build
point
it
out
back
to you,
better.
and I hope you point out,
As I close my
realize
notebook.
it's much more heart-wrenching, and it is, to deal with a 5 and 6 and 7-year-old. But you went down there and you saw the vast majority of these children,
Being
70%
turned
are
back.
16 years old, 17 years old, and mostly males.
I don't know. The vast
Doesn't
majority
make
was
it,
sent back home.
doesn't
so
make
she
it
didn't
good,
see
bad,
them.
or indifferent. But the idea that we have tens of thousands of kids in these god-awful facilities that are really little babies crying all night, there's some, that's true. That's why we got to act. And yesterday, I asked my team, both the director of the two agencies as well as others, I asked them what would they in fact, and I asked their opinion because they're the experts, but I said, focus on the most vulnerable immediately. But there's no reason why in the next month as people cross the border, that phone call can't be made in the first 48 hours and begin.
If I may ask one last question, have you had any talks with Senate Republicans who are threatening this administration with not considering the immigration legislation that was passed in the House until the situation at the border has been resolved?
No, because I'm not
I know
working in a
they have to
bipartisan
posture for
manner.
They sort of got to get it out of their system. This is a...
How's that working? How's that unity? You lying
but
freaking hypocrite.
I'm ready to work with any Republican
That's not
who
unity.
wants to help
Liar.
solve the problem or make the situation better. But folks, I'm going. Thank you very, very much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Mr. President! Mr. President! Mr. President! Mr. President! Mr. President! Mr. President! Don't walk out. I got 17 more questions about your favorite ice cream. What about the dogs? What kind of food do they eat? How horrible, how absolutely horrible was that you just saw? I mean, it's scary. This man stands up there and preaches gloom and doom the whole time. Not how it's all just horrible. And the Democrats are the best party in the world, and the Republicans are causing all the problems, and he's going to make it happen anyway because they got the numbers with the Democrats. They don't need the Republican help, but we're going to unify, and we're going to, well, we're going to, I don't know. What am I doing here? Jill, where am I? I don't have a sheet of paper telling me where I am. This man does not need to be leading the United States of America. He doesn't have anything going on up here that's his own idea. He is spitting out whatever they write, no matter how much sense it makes or doesn't make. This is scary. This is very, very scary. And I think the scariest part of it, to me, is who's in second place, who the VP is. She's horrible, absolutely horrible. Had zero support when she was running for president. She had zero support. Zero. And somehow they chose her as the VP? How does that happen? Guys, this man, I don't want to say this man because he's not doing it, because he's a puppet. But this man's party, I don't even want to blame it on the party, it's just a few people, are ripping this country apart. They are trying to make everything about race, and then when the white man snaps because he's tired of being called racist every time he turns around, especially when there is no racism in him, when he's being blamed for all of the crime and all the death and mayhem in the nation, when if you look at the statistics, if you look at the facts and data, you will see it's not white man doing the majority of the crime. And as long as they ignore the facts, they're going to be chasing their tails. And this is just the beginning. We're a couple of months into this presidency. He can't form complete sentences. He can't complete a thought. I'm saying he won't make it to through June. I don't want to use the Independence Day as his deadline, but he will be 25th Amendment out of office before July. Because this man, I mean, if you look at how he was in the debates in November or October and how he is now, that's almost two completely different people. Imagine 4 or 5 more months of no sleep, because it's a known fact the president doesn't get sleep, of constant pressure, of constant Mr. President, Mr. President, Mr. President, Mr. President. I mean, his handler's got to be, get away from him, get away from him. You ask Joe that. No, I'm sorry. You ask Bill that. You ask Tom that. Or in this case, you ask not those names that, because those named people aren't in there running things, because he had to have the most diversified cabinet support system in American history, even though that's not how American is represented. He's going to have equity. This man's not going to make it, guys. And what's scarier is what's going to take his place. Now, they need to enjoy it, because for a year and a half, they're going to be able to do whatever they want. And supposedly, I mean, I will say that eventually there are going to be Democrats saying, no, guys, you've gone off the deep end. You have, the senator from West Virginia, you guys, no, you can't do that. You can't end the filibuster just so you can push up. Because the only thing that's going to happen is once the pendulum swings back to the left or the right, they're going to reverse everything that's done. There's no middle ground. They aren't agreeing on anything. They're so extreme. We're gonna move everything over here our way, and then when the Republicans take over, they're going to move everything back over there. And then when the because it gets swings back and forth, we know this. But the damage the Democrats are doing right now, they're gonna cause the House to flip, they're gonna cause the Senate to flip, and then once again, the president will be in the White House will be a Republican. The only difference is this time, I'm pretty sure they're not going to memory hole everything, and they will go after big tech. They will go after Jack and Mark and Google, because hopefully they've learned their lesson. Because what has been railroaded through them the past 3 months cannot continue. And it's just getting destructive and more divisive. They're trying to make the American people hate each other so that they won't hate the cause of the problem. And the cause of the problem are the elites. Not just the politicians, but the elites who are financially backing the politicians. And they're sitting up there in their ivory tower saying, as long as we can make you plebs fight with each other, you won't be fighting with us because you'll hate each other, not us. That's why they're trying to make everything about race. Because the fact of the matter is, everything isn't about race. And the people who are being discriminated the most right now are white people. That's the fact of the matter. And you just don't have people with the balls to stand up and say it. But eventually they will, because they're going to be tired of being pushed around. The people that are canceling, they're going to get canceled. And then they're going to be like, yeah, I am horrible because my party says I'm horrible. And that's wait a minute. I'm not horrible. I've devoted my life to service for people. Not me. I'm not devoting my life to put money in my pocket. I'm devoted my life to make people better. And this is the thanks I get. It's not going to last. So what we just witnessed was just a horrific travesty of politics. And I know, and you know, and we all know the left-leaning CNNs are going to talk about how great it was when the man was raising his voice for no reason, when the man couldn't answer questions, when the man would go off on a wild tangent that didn't have anything to do with the question that was asked. They're going to ignore all that, and they're going to say this is a great man, because it's the narrative. It's not the man. So we'll be back with a White House presser when Jen gets back on the stage. I don't really know what's going on with the White House. They're removing press briefings left and right off of YouTube, off of their channel, I guess because she's getting her butt handed to her, and they don't want it to continue on perpetuity through the internet, so they remove the videos. But that's one reason I had to do this one, because I'm out of White House videos to do. So maybe they'll do one today. I don't know. But thanks for watching. Please comment, because the White House doesn't allow us to comment. So you can comment on my channel. Have a great day. Thank you. More divisive. They're trying to make the American people hate each other so that they won't hate the cause of the problem. And the cause of the problem are the elites. Not just the politicians, but the elites who are financially backing the politicians. And they're sitting up there in their ivory tower saying, as long as we can make you plebs fight with each other, you won't be fighting with us because you'll hate each other, not us. That's why they're trying to make everything about race. Because the fact of the matter is, everything isn't about race. And the people who are being discriminated the most right now are white people. That's the fact of the matter. And you just don't have people with the balls to stand up and say it. But eventually they will, because they're going to be tired of being pushed around. The people that are canceling, they're going to get canceled. And then they're going to be like, yeah, I am horrible because my party says I'm horrible. And that's wait a minute. I'm not horrible. I've devoted my life to service for people, not me. I'm not devoting my life to put money in my pocket. I'm devoted my life to make people better. And this is the thanks I get? It's not going to last. So what we just witnessed was just a horrific travesty of politics. And I know, and you know, and we all know the left-leaning CNNs are going to talk about how great it was when the man was raising his voice for no reason, when the man couldn't answer questions, when the man would go off on a wild tangent that didn't have anything to do with the question that was asked. They're going to ignore all that, and they're going to say this is a great man, because it's the narrative. It's not the man. So we'll be back with a White House presser when Jen gets back on the stage. I don't really know what's going on with the White House. They're removing press briefings left and right off of YouTube, off of their channel, I guess because she's getting her butt handed to her, and they don't want it to continue on perpetuity through the internet, so they remove the videos. But that's one reason I had to do this one, because I'm out of White House videos to do. So maybe they'll do one today. I don't know. But thanks for watching. Please comment, because the White House doesn't allow us to comment. So you can comment on my channel. Have a great day. Thank you.